Hello everyone. It's very difficult for new gardeners because oftentimes information on different websites will conflict to do the same job. One website might say grow sunflowers this way, but the next one will say completely different one again. And let's say that becomes very confusing for the new gardener, sometimes even for old hands trying a new thing for a change. But it becomes even more confusing when one gardener will conflict his own information, and unfortunately that's me today. But come on, we'll go and explain. Right, so today I'm sowing sweet peas. You probably guessed that from the title already. We'll get to the conflicting bit in a minute, but these are the seeds I'm sowing this year. This is from Eagle Sweet Peas. I'll put a link underneath in the description to the site. And this one is the Chelsea collection, and that's £12. 8 varieties in there and 20 seeds of each. And what I've done here is I've set up plant pots ready to plant, sieved compost, and these are poly pots. I've got one in here to show you, and that's how they come. That's how they come to you. They look like that. They're about 6.5 inches long as they are there, but once they're filled and they're flattened down, they're about 4 inches tall and 4 inches wide, and that's what I'm sowing me sweet peas in. I'll put a link underneath again if I can find where I bought these from. I got them, I think, year before last. I'm not sure, but if I can find the link, I will do, and I'll pop that in there just so that you can do that. So this is sieved compost, almost to the top, and then I've watered. This tray's been watered, that one hasn't. That's watered to settle it, and also for another part of the process in a minute when I top these up. Now I'm going to put 2 seeds in each cell, or each pot if you like, and I've already got a label written out. This one is Henry Thomas, and that's a crimson sweet pea. I'm just going to put 2 seeds in each pot, just lay them on the top. I don't need to press them in. And then that is as simple as it gets. Now, all we need to do now is just fill these pots all the way up to the top with the dry compost straight out of the bag or wherever you've got it from. This compost, incidentally, when it was all sieved and in the potting tray, I added a handful of bloodfish and bone, because the plants are going to be in these pots now for about 5, maybe 6 months, depending on when you eventually get them out to planted. We all know that even fresh compost from a bag only lasts about 6 weeks, so you need to put that extra feed in, and later on we will still need to feed these before they go out into the garden. We'll get to that when we get to it. Now what happens now is, by capillary reaction, this soaked compost underneath, and I mean it, is absolutely drenched, will start to soak up through the dry compost on the top. Because it's dry, it will just naturally start to percolate upwards, and that will very gradually soak the seed coat on the seed, rehydrate it, plump it up, and it will germinate and get away, rather than you just filling these up straight away right to the brim with compost, putting your seeds in and then watering them, and there's a chance that you could possibly drown them or make them rot because they're too wet. This way ensures that they get the perfect amount of water and wetness to swell up, germinate and start growing. So I'll do that with all these cells. I'll water those and then fill all these up, and then I'll come back and then we'll discuss the bit that conflicts, if you like. Right, so I've sown the rest of them. I've only filled those 3 pots. All I've got to do is just put a handful of compost on the top and cover them up, and they're ready to go. As I say, capillary reaction will draw the water up, rehydrate those seeds you can see in the top of these, hopefully, and plump them up, and they'll germinate and get going. And this is where the sort of conflicts start. First of all, between many different gardeners and the methods that you'll see. These seeds are dried out when you receive them, and they're pea seeds. You can see the size of them. They're nothing like the size of a pea because they're dried out. They need rehydrating before they're used. Now, there are many different ways to do that, and I have seen, I've never used it myself, some gardeners will take it between a thumb and forefinger and then chit it, what they call chit it. They'll use a knife to just nick that seed coat so that water can get inside and start to rehydrate them quicker. Or they'll just soak them in water, or they'll sandpaper a little bit of the shininess off the outside of that so that, again, the water can get in. Or you can just do like I've done there and let capillary reaction, as I say, soak them slowly. Now, at this time of year, as I've already said, these are going to be in there for about roughly 6 months, I would say. Probably more like 5. So I'm not in any sort of a big deal of a rush to get these going. And the reason I'm getting them going now is so that over winter they can grow slowly and the roots can develop in there to make good, strong plants, and they will start to grow away. Probably by next spring, they'll probably be somewhere up here when I come to plant them out. And the idea is to get good, strong, young plants, and if you grow them at this time of the year, they will stand temperatures down to, well, past 0 into the minus figures. And you can put them out early and they'll grow away strongly. That's what you want at that time of year, because you want the plants to go all the way up your supports, 6, 8 foot even, and then they're ready for flower production. They've done all the production of growing up because you started them off early. They've got good roots, they're in good soil when you put them out, and they're ready to go. They rocket up the supports, and then the flower production starts. Now, because of that, you get longer stems on your sweet pea flowers and you get more of them. And then when that clears, your side shoots that you're also training into your supports, they produce not quite as good, but again, good, strong flowers. Now, if you start them in the spring, they will still produce good flowers, but by the time your spring started flowers are halfway up the supports, it's warm enough and sunny enough for the flowers to start, and your stem length won't be as long and you won't get as many flowers. You'll still get plenty of flowers. And you know, I sow in the spring because I want them in the garden at home, as opposed to these. I want them down here at the allotments where I can take them home as cut flowers. So I want the longer stems on the better, stronger plants. I say the other sweet peas will flower for longer, the ones sown in spring, and you'll still get sweet peas, but they'll just stay on the plants in the garden, scenting the garden and looking pretty. So that's a bonus in that respect. So that's the two different types of flowers that you can have. Now, in spring, I use root trainers, and these things just go together like this. These are just short ones. These are only sort of 4 or 5 inches. You can get longer ones. And I use those in the spring, and I soak my seed in the spring, and this is the conflict between me and the two methods. I use this in spring, this in autumn, dry seeds in autumn, and soak seeds in the spring, because I want them to get away quickly. In the spring, I'm busy on the allotments in the polytunnel, sowing and potting on tons and tons of veg plants, because that's my main focus, and growing other flowers too. So by the time I get round to sowing these, I want them to grow quick. I could put them in dry like I've done here, but I'll just wait an extra week. If I soak them overnight and put them straight in here, they'll get away much quicker and become stronger plants. The taller I can get these plants before they start flowering, then the better production I will get in my garden at home. So that's the conflict between my two methods for growing exactly the same plants that will be on the plants at exactly the same time. These will be shorter, the ones in spring. These will be much more abundant with longer stems and much more flowers, but over the same amount of time as these, but much earlier in the year as well. The garden, all the spring sown ones for the garden at home will flower much later, and I've still got some that I grew in these root trainers at the back of the allotment, so they sort of cross over and you get an extended season. But that's the conflict that you get between different methods. I say some will swear by taking a nick out of the seed coat, some swear by sanding them down or soaking them overnight. It's horses for courses really, and what works for you. I prefer to use more compost in the autumn because I know the plants are going to be in for longer. In the spring, they're going to be in those root trainers for probably no more than 6 weeks. So that compost that's in there is enough for them to get going. I prefer to do more in the autumn. But I've actually seen gardeners recently using bigger root trainers, and it works for them. So again, it's horses for courses and what works for you. But say, that's the conflict between my sowing methods, and I'll put a link to my spring sown sweet peas, and hopefully if I can, my autumn sown ones from last year as well. But that's why I do it, because the plants become much improved, and massive stem length and more flowers as well if you sow now in autumn. Now, another thing worth mentioning is pests. Now, mice will eat your pea seeds if they can get at them, and there can be little buggers, they can. I've known them to get onto benches that were supported by shiny stainless steel legs, so they managed to climb up them. I don't know how. You would think they would slide off, but apparently not. But anyway, mice will eat them. The leaving lot come and take the seed off a growing plant. You know, a plant could be 4 inches tall and it'll come and take the seed off and bite its way through it. And the other thing, of course, is slugs. Slugs will eat the emerging shoots, and although I think this compost is fairly safe, there could easily, even though it's sieved, there could easily be a slug in here now waiting waiting to be fed, waiting for his breakfast. So what I'll do, and I don't use them often, is I will put a couple of slug pellets on the top of these straight away to protect against that, and kill them before the shoots emerge. And they will be in a protected area so that, you know, things like hedgehogs and birds can't eat them. And I will also put these on my hanging shelf in one of the polytunnels. I've got a couple of them, which means that rodents can't get at them, so they're protected always. And last thing is I will cover the tops of these with a bit of newspaper. It just helps just to keep the moisture in until I see germination. Once I've got the plants coming through the surface germinating, I'll just whip the paper off and they'll be off and running. But that's definitely worth mentioning, is watch out for pests. On the hanging shelf, a couple of slug pellets on to protect for them, and you'll be good to go. So there we are, 2 different methods for sowing sweet peas, for 2 different times of the year, for 2 slightly different types of crop, or for show, whatever. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed that. Comments down below if you've got anything to say on it. I'd love to hear what you've got to say and how you grow your sweet peas. I'm sure what everybody's doing is doing right and you're getting sweet peas, but it's just so interesting to me to see all the different methods that people use. So these are the ones that work for me. I'll remind you of the autumn one when I do the spring one next year as well. So just to keep you on a par with what I've been doing, and I'll take you through these, what I do with these as the months progress. Anyway, that's it for now. Look after yourselves, everyone. Please stay safe. I'll see you all very, very soon. Ta-ra now.